Oh no. I think what I'll start doing is at the end of every video, the absolute last 5-second clip will be a teaser about the next video. That way I don't lose your attention, like you did your ex-girlfriend. Guys, welcome back. Currently we are rebuilding a Porsche 911. In today's video, we have to disassemble the front end of the 911 so that we can begin fitting all of the replacement parts that we purchased primarily on eBay Motors. Now, before we put wrenches to nuts, we have to wash this car because nobody likes working on dirty nuts. In order to address a front-end collision like this, we're gonna have to spend quite a bit of time behind the wheel. It's nice to be working on a car that's not an inch off the ground. Don't be silly and forget these. It wouldn't be silly, that would be lethal. There's really no doubt in my mind that every component from this radiator assembly is broken. Unfortunately, on eBay, I was able to find a new one. It literally comes with everything. There's a condenser here, there's a radiator, the electric fan on the back, all the sensors. This saves me hundreds of dollars from buying everything individually, which I already did. So now I have to work on returning everything else. This is that whole wrenches to nuts thing I was telling you about. Since the front end collision damaged the condenser, there's no longer any air conditioning gas pressurized inside the system, so I don't have to worry about any leaks. Hopefully this air conditioning system worked before the accident. It would probably be a good idea to keep this thing out of the way while we work on our fender, but I want to hook it up and run a vacuum test against it to see if there's any other leaks in our cooling system. At some point we need to address the most damaged portion of our Porsche, which is the front fender. Enough tinkering with the small items here. Let's quit beating around the bush and smash right into it. You can only hope that nobody was injured in the accident, or the humor becomes more cringe with every joke. When you take off a fender, you have to put a wrench to certain bolts that were never meant to see a wrench. They were painted to match the car. So when you put a wrench to them, you scratch the paint, and then anyone who buys this car after me will know that we did some serious body work. The hope is that if you buy this car, you've already seen these videos. Imagine buying the car and then finding the videos. Imagine dating a stripper and not knowing she's a stripper. You could paint the bolts after you put them back in, but if you've watched the channel up until this point, you'll realize pretty quickly that I don't really mind a little character. These are coming out nicely, and I'm barely scratching them. I mean, I'm scratching them, but I'm barely scratching them. Once all the hardware is removed, it's as simple as breaking all the little plastic pieces that are really hard to fix and replace, and then the fender pulls right off. There's always one more bolt that you don't see. Rather than look for it, I'm just gonna keep pulling. I'm pretty sure the only thing holding this on is whatever that was. Every time I do this, I think about putting this back together with a freshly painted fender. And there it is, folks. We got the fender off. In taking a closer look at the suspension, it really looks like there's only one component of the front left suspension that's damaged.
The lie detector determined that was a lie.
And that's this front tie rod. I'm not totally convinced this is damage sustained during the accident, or if this is just related to poor maintenance. Either way, I have a new one to install. Once I put this in, the car will have to be aligned, which we kind of knew already. Tie rods are an adjustable component, so you want to count how many turns it takes to get this thing off, and that's how many turns we'll put the new one back on. Now, not to get too ahead of ourselves, this is our new fender. Well, it's not new. It's definitely not new. It's new to us. Certainly, we're going to have to do a better fitment job than that. Well, actually, this part serves no purpose. Just helps to... It serves no purpose. Now, I'm really interested in taking our 911 for its first test drive, but in order to do it, we have to get the front wheel on and get this car off of jack stands. Now, you might think that something like that would keep this car from being drivable, but that is not the case. Although there is something about our 911 that makes it undrivable. With the radiators in the front of the car, the engine in the back of the car, and about 50 feet of coolant lines running in between, the radiator, the engine, and those coolant lines are full of air. If you ran the 911 without coolant, our 911 build series would be over in about 2 minutes of runtime. Now you can't just pour coolant into the engine. We'd never be able to displace all that air and we'd have an airlock in the system. So we have to get the air out of the system. This is the tool we're gonna use to get the air out of the system. It's a vacuum pump. All we have to do is plug it into our coolant reservoir, hook it up to the air compressor which sucks all the air out leaving a vacuum, and then we use said vacuum to suck in coolant that we've poured into a 5-gallon bucket. This is an expensive piece. It's on Amazon for about 150 bucks. If you want to buy one, I'll put the link in the description down below. But if you use it once, you save yourself a whole bunch of money. Doing this job at the dealership would probably cost millions, if not billions. With plenty of coolant now in the engine, I don't see any reason why we can't test drive our 911. Any reason at all. Nothing like a little rev on a cold engine. Cool. Limited lights on the dash, a parking light, trunk light, spoiler light, and washer fluid light. Cool. The maiden voyage. Reverse works. Whoop, whoop. It's moving straight, which is a good sign. No unusual noises so far. First gear. Second gear. Guys, I'll be honest, when you buy a car from the auction, you never know what you're gonna get, especially with a 20-year-old car. Buying a new car is one thing. It gets crashed, it's worth a lot of money, the insurance company totals it, you get your money back and the car goes to auction. But when you're gonna buy an old piece of junk, who knows what other concomitant issues the car has. You think it has damage that you see in the pictures, but it turns out it has a bad engine or a bad transmission or a bad clutch. Third gear. This thing seems all right. Minus the fact that it doesn't have a front end. My neighbors at this point know exactly what's going on every time they see a car drive down the street that has no front end attached. There's something going on with the shifter. This is not the factory shifter. It's really snappy, super short. Is the windshield cracked? And with all that being said, bad transmission, bad engine, all the bad possibilities, I'm pretty sure we got a good one. I said pretty sure, and you're gonna have to watch the next video to find out for certain. And please subscribe, or don't. Just keep watching the videos regardless of your subscription status. For all you content addicts that are still here for the teaser, this is a 911 GT3 front bumper. I have to install it and paint it by the next video. That would cost over $5,000 if you bought it from Porsche. I found it from Precision Porsche in California. I think it was $2,000, and it came with GT3 side skirts, have to paint and fit those, and last but certainly not least, $2,000 to maybe $3,000 worth of genuine Porsche parts from eBay Motors. And that is the end of your teaser.